Hey everybody, welcome back. Here's another test review question for our fall 2023 class. Again, another topic on quadratics. This time around, we have a quadratic equation that has one root equal to 5 plus square root of 2. And there are three parts to this one. First one, determine the other root. Second part, find the sum and product of the roots. And the third part is to find a quadratic equation that has these roots. All relate to each other, and we begin with trying to find this other root. And so whenever you have a quadratic equation where the root is like has some number with a radical or some number with an I value, that root has a pair called the conjugate root. Now the conjugate root is going to be, in this case, the the same exact numbers. Like in this case, we have 5 plus square root 2. So our root 1, so in this case, if root 1 is 5 square root 2, the other root must be, in this case, x equals 5 minus square root 2. So same exact numbers, except the sign between them is different. All right, so it's called a conjugate. Called a conjugate. In case you guys didn't know that before, conjugate. And these are pretty important for us as we continue on with just talking about roots in general for polynomial functions, which we'll talk about as we move along. So knowing the root of one polynomial function, we know that, especially if it's again 5 plus square root 2 or something minus the square root or something, those are going to have conjugate roots, always come in pairs. So always know in this case same exact number. We're not reversing signs. It's not the opposite. It's just in this case the same exact numbers, just the operation between them will be the opposite. So from here we can find the sum and product of our roots. Right? So the sum of the roots, because the two roots are 5 plus square root 2, so let's find the sum now. Now the sum would be in this case 5 plus square root 2. Now I like stacking them, and 5 minus square root 2. When we add downwards, we'll see in this case that the positive plus square root 2 and negative square root 2 cancel out. So our sum will be 10. Okay. So hopefully that's not so bad. So just adding them. And now for the product, for those of you who are just a little phobic with just kind of afraid of the radicals and multiplying them and all, not to worry. The product in this case will just have us multiplying. Now, if you remember how to do the whole thing with the distributive property, that's one way to do this null. If you allow use calculator, which I will allow students to use calculators, you just type into calculator exactly see it null. But distributive property we would have in this case would be, in this case, 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times negative square root 2 is minus 5 square root 2. 2 square root 2 times 5 is plus 5 square root 2. And positive square root 2 times negative square root 2 is negative square root of 4. Now we add them all up and we get 25. These cancel out. And we minus square root of 4, which same thing as minus 2, because square root of 4 is equal to 2, which means our product is going to be 23. Now, another way to do this in this case would be just to know that, and I don't want, I do this for property because I don't want people to think that, multiplying two binomials is going to be the first number squared minus second number squared. But when you have your conjugates, they're always going to be actually that exact thing. So only for conjugates are you going to be able to do 5 squared minus the square root of 2 squared, which would be 25 minus 2, which gives us the 23 we have here. So it's a product. Again, calculator is fine, right? So, but just know that if you want to do quick calculations and you don't need to really show work for your exam, which you will have for mine, you can just show in this case just know in this case mentally that the conjugates are going to be the first number squared minus second number squared. All right. To be careful with I values in case you have i's. I squared equals -1. So really, the conjugates for complex numbers will actually be the first number squared plus the coefficient of the I squared. Right. So i's are going to get involved also. But in any case, that's not the question here. All right. So we have here now is we have our second part done. We have the sum is 10 and the product is 23. Now I find a quadratic equation for these roots. Well, if you remember, the third thing is that our sum of the roots, sum of roots is equal to negative b over a. Not to be confused, not to be confused with our axis symmetry, which is negative b over 2a. Oops, that's actually what I did. So, all right. So, what do you call it? There you go. Talk about making mistakes. Negative b over a. Okay. Quadratic are for are, and this is where you have to be very careful. Some of the roots is negative b over a, uh, while axis symmetry is negative b over 2a. So just know they're different from each other, and not get to not easily get mistaken. Now the product of the roots, a product of the roots will be c over a, right? And now a, b, and c correspond to our standard form of quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now we will set up our sum. Our sum is 10. Now keep in mind 10 over 1. Okay. Anytime you have a situation where you have the sum of the roots or product roots as a whole number, it's that whole number over 1. And the same thing with the product is not 20, just 23, but 23 over 1. Okay. Now the reason why we set it up this way because we should notice in this case that both a values in both fractions are the same, which means we can make the statement that our a value is equal to 1 because we're just kind of matching up things here. Okay, and then we'll also see in this case our c value should equal to 23 then. So we'll say c equals 23. You might be saying, why did you skip b? Well, I want to super emphasize the fact that we get so caught up in just look at the numbers like, oh, well, a is 1, c is 23, b is going to be 10. This is where we have to be very careful, super careful, because in this situation, we're going to notice that negative b equals 10. So for the b value, using this technique, you're going to have to kind of take the opposite of what you see. So if negative b equals positive 10, positive b equals negative 10. I'm not saying in this case that the number always be b will always be a negative number. I'm saying in this case, when we do this here, we're going to keep in mind that we're going to change the sign of whatever we have that fraction. Sorry, my handwriting is just tad. I'll make sure this negative looks better. So there, that's a little better. Okay, one last thing, right? We found a, b, and c values, and we're going to use in this case our equation setup or form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And so now all we're doing is plugging the a value, the b value, and the c value in. So we get, in this case, 1x squared, I'll use green here, 1x squared for a, right? That's a plus b, right? So, sorry, plus bx. Okay, and so but our b value is going to be negative 10. So minus 10x plus 23 equals 0. And this will be the equation, the quadratic equation that matches up here. Okay, so notice these steps kind of lead one into the other to show you how to find the quadratic equation given one of these roots. Okay, all right, so just be very careful with some of the stuff, but it's not hopefully that bad because all you're really doing is knowing the conjugate. That's the key thing to start with, that we have the same numbers but opposite signs, that we add them together. Again, if you are really unsure about how to do this, you can just type in the calculator and find the sums, and as well the products. Record them. Remember the sum of the roots is negative b over a, and the product of roots is c over a. Once we line up our sum with the formulas and the product with the formulas, we can identify the a, b, and c values, and from there, fill into our standard form of a quadratic equation. It's a lot to remember if you haven't been practicing, but hopefully this will help. And the key thing is that what you should do is just practice, even doing the same question over and over again, but you want to keep in mind what steps involved. The answer is not important as the process. Okay, If you've watched this far and found this helpful, I appreciate you if you give this video a like. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and turn notifications to be notified when new videos are being added. Okay, and I hope this helps for our exam. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. I will see you in the next video. Take care and be safe.